What's up, everybody? How's it going? This is Justin Bozeman back with another edition of Uncle Tom's Extravaganza. This is the season 2 premiere, and I believe I'm doing this show solo. And it's not going to be a very long show. I kind of wanted to dive into one topic, talk about it for just a little bit, kind of briefly for me, and kind of really get people to kind of understand where I'm coming from with what it is that I'm saying. So, this show, Uncle Tom's Extravaganza, obviously the title is inflammatory to some, but if you don't know who Uncle Tom is based on, it's based on a real person named Josiah Henson. And Josiah Henson, he was a former slave. He was able to escape all the way into Canada, and he was able to learn a trade after he escaped, and he was able to work hard enough to be able to start his own business in that trade. And then he hired other former slaves and other blacks and people of color who came up there, and he taught them that trade, and he also taught them that they could also learn another trade and go out and start businesses for themselves. So basically, he created a group of black people who were independent, and he taught them that they could be self-sufficient. And so for me, he was a person who empowered the community and empowered the people actually around him. So that's why we title this show Uncle Tom's Extravaganza, because we celebrate him, because we want to do the same thing. We believe in making it so that people are empowered by hearing the truth, by knowing that there is nothing that is able to stop you if you have the power of God in your life through the personhood of Jesus Christ. And so that's why we take the stance that we take on a lot of different things. And so that's why this show is dedicated to him. And so we want to talk about certain things that are going on in the world right now. There's a lot of things going on. There's the war in the Ukraine. There's gas prices being $4 and $5 a gallon for gas. And, there's a lot of different things that are taking place and transpiring. But there's one thing in particular that kind of caught my eye, and I want to talk about it. A few months ago, probably a few months ago, while we were on a hiatus, because we like to take a break and just be able to divide the seasons. Otherwise, we would just be here all the time, never ending, always running. So during our time off, a lot of things transpired. And one of the things that really caught my eye, and I'm going to just relax and just talk about this and take my time, even though this is supposed to be kind of a brief show. One of the things that kind of caught my eye was Joe Biden decided that with the news of Justice Breyer had a bit of a news cycle because he announced that he was stepping down at the end of this Supreme Court cycle in terms of term. He was going to retire and he was moving on. And Judge Breyer is one of I call him the liberal judges. Right now in the Supreme Court, it's a majority now for what people will call the conservatives, but Justice Breyer is more on the liberal side of the court. He was a Democratic appointed judge. And so Joe Biden announced that with him announcing his retirement, he was going to pick a new Supreme Court judge. Now, there's no problem with that. If you're the president of the United States, it's within your operating job title to pick not only Supreme Court judges, but federal judges, appellate court judges, the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals judges. I mean, there's a lot of federal judges that need to be actually assigned and appointed, and a lot of research goes into that. So that's within your rights. So there's no problem there. But then he announced that he was going to make sure that for the new Supreme Court judge, that he just period, point blank, was just going to choose a black woman. Yes. He just said, with this vacancy that's opening up in the Supreme Court, I'm just going to choose a black woman to be judge. Now, for me, and obviously, if you look at my skin color, I boldly need to make the claim that I have melanin in my skin. So you would think, a lot of people would think on the outside that something like that, hearing something like that would make me happy. But in fact, it did not, at least not me. And let me tell you why. One of the things that is interesting about choosing a judge is a judge shouldn't be chosen based on circumstances such as outward appearance. Now, I know that this is controversial. I do. I realize this. But one of the things that I really would like to have in a judge is the ability to know the law and to be able to rightly discern and divide the information that's given to him and to make a righteous judgment. Even the Bible, when it talks about, there's a verse in First Corinthians, and the Apostle Paul is talking about how there are people who are suing other Christians, other believers, people in the church, and they have disputes, and they're going to the courts of the world to settle their disputes. And he kind of was admonishing them because he said, you guys should be able to judge these disputes and judge amongst yourselves without having to go to the world. You guys should have enough moral compass. You have the Spirit of God. You have the fact that you love each other. You have the fact that you have the Word of God. You have the Spirit of God dwelling inside of you. There should be no reason that you go to an outside source to have to judge stuff that's going on amongst yourselves. You should be able to judge among the people in the body of Christ and leave the dealings of the world to the world. And so one of the things that a judge should have, he should have the ability to be able, I think they should have the ability to be able to know what the law is and to be able to judge righteously without bias. And so Joe Biden says he's going to pick a judge that is black. My issue with this, number one, and let me just, I probably shouldn't number these because I just have a lot of problems with this. Let me give a disclaimer first. The person who he eventually chose, I believe her name is Kanata Brown. I'm not sure if I'm saying her name properly. I haven't looked it up. If I'm wrong, somebody can correct me. But looking at her background, she's from Harvard. She went to Harvard, and then she went to Harvard Law. She's a part of the sorority, the black sorority for people who go to Harvard. She's part of another sorority. She had to fill out her application papers for the job that she gives to the Senate. You can read it on the congressional website. I've read through some of it, and obviously from her qualifications, obviously she was a law clerk coming out of Harvard Law to Justice Breyer, and to a couple people who were on the appellate courts and the federal court circuits. And she's been known to go and to be able to give lectures to people at law schools about things, such as civil rights. She's a huge pro-choice advocate, and all these different things in terms of what she believes in. But in terms of her qualifications, in terms of her being a person who's been a judge and served as a lawyer and knows the law and is educated, she's all those things. She has those qualifications. She's educated. She has experience in being a judge. That's not the problem. The problem that I have is Joe Biden said he's going to make a choice for a judge simply based on the color of her skin and based on gender. Didn't say black man or just they have to be black. Didn't say that they had to just be a certain race. He specifically said that it has to be a black woman. My issue with this is that if in the world that we live in, if we claim that we want people to be judged solely based on the fact that they're qualified to do a job, I would think if I was the person being chosen for this job, the fact that Joe Biden said that he automatically eliminates, I can't give a percentage of number, but he automatically is going to eliminate, let's say, 75 to 60% of the quality of the candidates just based on the fact that they're not the right skin tone and they're not the right gender. I'll be generous. I'll say it's 50%. I know it's not. It's probably more so around 90%. You eliminate about 90% of the candidates just based on the fact that their gender isn't right and their skin color isn't right. But we're in a society where people are complaining that people are chosen based on the fact that they're not white. And your solution to solve this is to reverse it and say, I'm just going to eliminate an entire group of people, not based on a qualification, but just based on their race and gender. To me, this is what I would call reverse racism. But nobody in the media is calling him out on this. Nobody's calling him out on this. Nobody would see. It would be a different thing, and this would really make people mad. It would really make people mad if a president came along and said, I'm going to choose a Supreme Court judge, and it has to be a white woman. See, people would be upset about that if he came out and said that. It's one thing to have it happen where you bring the list of candidates together and you look through the black ones, the white ones, the Asian ones, the Hispanic ones, the people who are from Arab countries, Indian ones. You look through people who are from Africa. You look through people who might have been from Canada. You look through the list and you look through black, white, Hispanic, all these different things, and you look and you begin to see like, hey, okay, based on their qualifications of them serving under this person, they were a law clerk here, they served as a judge here, they have this famous court case on their record, on their docket, that I can see how they judged it. And based on that alone, I can see that their work and the way that they write their judgments, I can see that they have a grasp of the Constitution and a grasp of a law that is beyond anything that any of these other candidates are going to represent. So I'm putting them up to the front. They're going to be the leading forerunners. If it was chosen based on something like that, and it happens to come out that it's a black woman, I think that sounds better. I think that sounds better. I'm okay with that. And I would think that every race would be okay with that. The issue I would have, and you'll never hear a white person say this, at least not ones who are going to be in popular media. The problem is you basically just said, you basically are telling the black community the only way that you're going to get to this position is if I intentionally make it so that me, the white man, Joe Biden, who, he's supposed to be the non-face of white supremacy, but with him doing what he's doing and what he just did, it shows that really Joe Biden is really the face of white supremacy, because he basically just said, you're not good enough to go against the candidates on your own merits. You're not good enough to stand up against the scrutiny of what it takes to be a lawyer if I were to line you up and go docket by docket, court case by court case against these other judges. You're not good enough to do that. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so that I handpick you just so I can say, this is us, this is America moving in a different direction. I have a problem with that. I have a serious, for me as a black person, I'm not happy to hear that. I'm not. I know that you'll get the people who are going to go on these liberal media outlets, the Roland Martins and the CNNs and the MSNBCs and the CNN, and they're going to be like, "Oh, this is great, this is great." But listen, what they're doing is they're basically saying we're going to make it so that black people don't have to compete against other people of other races because I don't think they can win just based on the merits of their own accomplishments and their own scholastic achievement. That's what they're saying. So instead of me going through and making it so that we see that she's the best candidate because I lined her up against other candidates who I consider to be the best, instead I'm just going to say I'm going to eliminate those candidates and just put in a pool of black candidates, not because they're qualified, but just because they're black. Am I the only person who sees a problem with this? And I know that there's some people who are going to be watching and say, man, but there hasn't been black women on the Supreme Court. It needs to represent America, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Let's say you're right. All right. I'm not going to not acknowledge that in some way that we should probably have not only more people of color on the Supreme Court, but definitely a black woman that probably would be good. But here's my issue. My issue is the way that it is presented to me. There was an amazing episode, and I know I'm not supposed to speak this man's name, but I will forever champion what this man did because he showed America. You got America not to see the stereotype of the black man, and his name is Bill Cosby. There was an amazing episode of The Cosby Show that I watched, and at the time I didn't know how profound it was because when I was a kid and I watched The Cosby Show, I didn't get the humor. And then when I got to be older and I got to have kids of my own and whatnot, and I experienced some things in life and in marriage and relationships, I started to be able to see the humor. But there was an episode where his daughter decides that she's going to introduce and bring home someone for her father to meet. And without even really having a chance to really meet the guy, she basically just reveals, hey, this guy I'm bringing home, we're engaged. We're getting married. This is who it is. I mean, just out of the blue. And I remember the father he wasn't necessarily upset about her wanting to get married, because I mean, that's a great thing for fathers in most cases. When you want to see your daughters get married to men who love them, that's fine. But the issue that he had, and he reveals this in a comedic way, the issue that he had with her introducing him to him in the way that she did was he didn't like the way that it was presented. And he used the example and the analogy and the picture of a steak. What if somebody cooks a nice steak and it's the best kind of cut steak, but instead of putting it on a plate of fine china, they put the steak, once the steak's done, after they've done the seasoning and everything, and they make it right, they make it the right temperature, well done, whatever. What if they put it on a garbage lid with other crap and garbage around it? For you, that would take away your appetite for the steak because you see the garbage around the steak and what it's on top of and how it's being presented to you. And you would say, I don't want this, even if the steak is high quality. And when I think about that example, this is the example that I think of when I think about how this judge was chosen and introduced to the American public. And you won't hear white people say this. You won't hear white people talk about this. They won't dare utter this because they're afraid of being called the R word. But I'm going to say this as a person who has melanin in my skin and who was still proud. One of my favorite people of all time is Clarence Thomas, who is proud to have somebody on the Supreme Court who came from where he came from. Even when I think about the Thurgood Marshalls, proud. But what I'm not happy about is how this woman was presented to America. And notice I haven't even got into me disagreeing with her ideology. I haven't even got into that. I haven't even got into her ideology and whether I agree with her ideology or not, whether her judicial philosophy fits what I actually think a person who is on the Supreme Court should be. But I would be angry, and I am angry, and I'm disappointed that other Black people aren't angry. I'm angry and upset about how she is being presented. Even if I disagree, and you know what, let me get into her judicial philosophy just very quickly, because I mean, you know, this is a short, quick show. Even if I'm against her judicial philosophy, which, you know, she's obviously a liberal. She's a big civil rights person. And one of the biggest things that she's into allowing access for abortion, especially to teenagers. And I believe without them having to get parental consent. I believe that's what she believes in. So in fact, one of the reasons why Joe Biden chose her is because he said she will help. And this is what they say. These are the buzzwords. She will help women's reproductive rights, women's health. That's what he'll say. She's good with women's health. And he will talk about this, and he'll talk about how she's good for this, and basically what that means is she's going to allow abortion no matter what people say. That's what she's for. Which, as we've stated on this show and on this program, the whole thing of abortion was founded out of the face of white supremacy to make sure that Black people never rose up. So why somebody Black would support something that was originated from somebody who was steeped in a legacy of white supremacy, whose main intention was to keep the Black community down. Why somebody would support that, I don't know. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. But that's one thing that she believes in. Also, because she's a little bit to the left, one thing about leftist judges and the people who are on the left and who are liberal judges a lot of times, they don't believe that the Constitution is good enough as it is. They believe that the Constitution needs to be rewritten and redefined, and it needs to change over the course of what happens of what happens over time. So this will equate to something such as them including people such as the LGBT into the civil rights bill. They'll say, well, they weren't there, but that's who they're thinking about. They're disenfranchised. They'll add that in, even though that was never intended in the original bill. They'll kind of shift things as stuff comes up. So they believe in kind of changing the Constitution instead of just enforcing the Constitution. And so what a lot of the left-leaning liberal judges like to do is they like to legislate from the bench. And this is why liberals and most liberal presidents love being able to support Supreme Court judges, is because they know that most of the laws that they want to pass are unconstitutional and they can't get them through Congress. So they have to get the judges on the left to be able to legislate them from the bench. So liberal judges believe in legislating from the bench. I'm going to say that again. Liberal judges believe in legislating from the bench. I have a huge issue with that because with there being three different parts of our government, the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch, we know that laws are supposed to be written by the legislative branch and signed by the executive branch and interpreted by the judicial branch to make sure that there's a check and balance. But because Democrats know that they can't get their laws that they want to get passed because they can't get through Congress, oftentimes what they will do is they will use and abuse and misuse the Supreme Courts and the judicial branch to try to legislate stuff from the bench. I have a huge issue with this. People, I have a problem with this. And the reason why I have a problem with this is because it usurps the authority that is given to the American public by being able to elect representatives who go on and who write the laws for you. It's a way of being able to circumvent and to usurp that authority. And that's my big problem with it. Because I understand and recognize that a lot of the things that people are complaining about in terms of, because people are still in the mindset of believing in civil rights and all these different things, and I'll go into a different show of why people need to get off of the civil rights and start to really think about infrastructure. Because if Black people would have been focused on infrastructure, they wouldn't be thinking about civil rights. It wouldn't matter. And if they really were to think about it honestly, civil rights, that we've had civil rights. What they want now, and what most people want without really knowing that this is what they're told that they should want, we want some form of governmental control in making it so that income is level between every race of people. That's what it is. And to be honest, I mean, I understand why people would say that that would be something that's needed. But to be honest, and this is just something that I'm saying, and this is going to be controversial, I don't believe that all people should make the same. I don't think that all people are equal in their work ethic. I don't think that all people are equal in what they should make. I don't think that all people are as valuable in the trades that they do and the way that they perform and the businesses that they open and the ideas and the intellectual properties that come out of their mouth. I don't think that everybody's equal. There might be an Arab man who comes up with a great idea and he should be compensated for it. There might be a white man who comes up with a good tech idea. He should be compensated for it. There might be a Black man who comes up with a great idea for this and for that, and he should be compensated for it. There might be somebody who writes great music and they should be compensated for it. And there might be somebody over here who comes up with an invention that changes how the world does certain things. They should be compensated for it. I don't think that everybody should have to be able to make the same thing, because not everybody has actually abided by principles that would be conducive for them to be able to create and sustain and pass on generational wealth. And part of the issue with the Democratic Party and why Joe Biden believes in stacking the courts, which is something that he said that that he would do, which he always never gets asked this question, and he never will get asked it, but we'll know it whenever they try to do it. One of the reasons why they want to stack the courts and do these different things is because they want to make it so that the government is in control of who wins and who loses. They want to make it so that the government is in control of who is able to be declared a winner and a loser. This is a problem. I mean, this is a huge problem. I mean, and America doesn't usually perceive this. We don't usually think about this. We don't usually think that this is how the legislative process works. But this is what the world has been kind of going to and pushing for. So I'm disappointed that nobody has observed the picking of this Supreme Court nominee. And nobody is as outraged by the process in which she was found other than me. And for me personally, if I was her, I wouldn't want to be selected, because what you've told people, and this is me, maybe she don't feel this way. Maybe she's like, whatever. What you've told people basically is that I'm not on the Supreme Court or being picked because I'm the best candidate available. You're telling people like, well, we feel like there's no black people on this court, so we need to make sure that we put them on here. So we're just gonna pick somebody black, not the best person. We're just gonna pick somebody black. Now, it'd be one thing if they had that thought process in their mind and they didn't actually reveal this. Okay, all right. But to say it tells me what they think of you, the black American. It's what they think of you, the black American, is why they say, we don't think you're good enough to be able to win just on your qualifications alone. So we, the white people here, have to help you out because you're not smart enough or good enough to get your foot in the door on your own. Me, I resent that. I don't believe that. I'm angry about that. I don't think that is true. But people are going to celebrate this. There are going to be people who, oh man, this is great. Oh man, this is great. And me, I'm sitting here like, I can't believe that they basically told us that we're not good enough to do this on our own. They have to pick and choose and regulate society to make us have a place. Now, some people think already now, and I call this the victim mindset, that we're in that place now. We're like, well, we do got to have them regulate a place for us because they won't give it to us. My question is, and this is a question that's going to be asked over the next couple of weeks on this show, why do we keep looking for elevation in a white created infrastructure as opposed to just creating one of our own? And I know that there's some people who are going to say, well, we tried that. They'll tear it down. And I'm like, okay, it's not 1920 anymore. It's not 1930 anymore. It's not 1940 anymore. It's not 1950 anymore. It's not 1960. Why is it that the Italian people can come over and they can band together and start to build generational wealth? Why is it that people from China and from South Asia and from Japan can come over here, band together, start up all these different businesses, have stuff like Chinatown, band together, and within 2-3 generations, their kids are doctors. Their kids are doctors or lawyers, or they're doing something. Why is it that they can come over and they can do that? Why is it that the person who is a non-descendant of slaves, who comes over from the islands, from maybe Jamaica, from the Caribbean, from somewhere over there, why is it that the Africans can come over and within 2 generations they can be doctors and lawyers and passing stuff on to their children? Why is it that they can do that? Why is it that they don't wait to be a part of the white infrastructure? Why do they go and just create their own? Why is it that you have the Irish who can come over here and start Irish pubs and Irish unions and all the types of stuff, and they're not waiting for the white infrastructure? These are just questions that I ask, and this is why I believe that we probably get ostracized here on this program, but you know what? It's okay. I believe that one day that there's going to be a group of people who hear this message and who hear the truth and start to be able to recognize that you are in control. Let me say this very carefully. Black America, you are in control of your own destiny. You don't need the white man. You don't need the system to help you. Why do I believe that? I believe that because I have somebody named Jesus Christ on my side. And if God is on my side, then whatever is for me, God is going to make sure, even when there are political demons put into place to try to disrupt things, when there's spiritual wickedness in high places, when there's principalities, when the political systems are corrupt, God always puts his people into a place in which they can be provided for when they're obedient to him. This is why I can't get over the Black American Christian who's complaining about racism, because you believe that the system or the white man is greater than the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who in the midst of a desert land, in the midst of famine, can come through and create for you provision out of nowhere. This is why I'm not angry about stuff, about certain things that happen to certain people. This is why I don't react the same way to certain things. And maybe this is why people don't like our program. Maybe this is why we get shadow banned. But it's okay, because I understand that there are people who are going to hear this message. And I just want you to think about how much power you do have and what you're not doing because you believe that there's something stopping you. There's nothing stopping you. So this has been a really, really quick edition, solo show, season premiere of Uncle Tom's Extravaganza. I know that I did this late. I believe that I was able to stream this live to both Facebook and to YouTube. And so I want people to really like and comment and subscribe and ask questions. I also would like for people to share this video with other people. If you just want to get out the message and get the word out, maybe in a way that they haven't heard, maybe you can do that. That would really help us here and help us to get the word out for people who really need to hear it. And so with that being said, this is a Monday night. This is the season premiere of Uncle Tom's Extravaganza. Normally my co-host, my father will be with me, and he'll be here at some point during this season as we get back into the flow of things. But until next time, everybody, this is Justin Bozeman with Uncle Tom's Extravaganza, and I am signing out.